Hi, Ann Cornick from Paintnporcelain. I'm here to teach new people how to get started in China painting and to get experienced painters to paint along with me since we don't get together very often right now. So this is another way of painting with somebody and learning some new things. Today we're going to work on something that I kind of stumbled upon. I have a lot of ornaments that are two-sided like this, and they have these recessed center sections of them. And when you have a piece like this that has a reverse side to it, a lot of times it's hard to figure out how to paint it. So I'll give you an example. Here's one I painted, and I painted this side with the poinsettia. Now the gold I put on last because this was after both sides were painted. But I painted this side with the poinsettia. And then I started and I thought, well, what can I put on the back? So I started out putting in the blue, and all of a sudden I spilt some of my mineral spirits on it. And I went to wipe it off and I went, oh, I know what I can do. I can do a snow scene. I had completely forgotten that I could do this. So this is something I'm going to show you today. Alrighty, and there we go. And I'm going to pull you in a little bit closer. Now this is what we're going to paint, something similar to this. I mean, you can do anything. It's strictly wipeout, and you'll see that. But the best kind of ornament probably to work with is one that has a section like this that's confined. And if you work with a section like this that's confined, it's a little easier on the cleanup. You can use the regular ornaments, like the round ones that have a flat section, or something like this where you just have the flat section, but you have the edges right there. You could either tape along the edges, which takes a while and it doesn't always work, or you can paint the center section, and then at the very end, take your brush with mineral spirits, but push off as much of the excess as you can, and take your brush and go around the edges and just clean it up. Make sure you get as much of those mineral spirits off, though, as possible. Make your brush just, moist. You don't want it dripping because otherwise it'll bleed into your design and wreck your design. Okay, so we're going to get started. I have a small palette here. For this particular project, I'm going to be using some of these colors. I'm going to be using probably a rich brown, a silver gray. Silver gray is good for pathways and things. Rich brown is always really good for trees and little fences, things like that. I have a black blue and a banding blue for the background. You can decide which one you prefer to use, or even use a lighter blue like a cool shadow. I have white. I also have a brown green for the trees, and like a Persian red for, in this case, the little barn that I'm going to put on here. So we're just going to get started. You're going to dip into your oil. You're going to take your darkest color, which for me is the black blue, and you're just going to paint. I painted the whole thing black blue. Now, in order to do that, you need a fairly wet brush because bisque tends to drag. You don't want it so wet that it's leaving you a real shine. It should soak in to the bisque a little bit. And if it does that, then you're going to get kind of a nice dull edge. Now you're going to go around the edge of this one because luckily I have the edge there, and then you're going to just paint it in so that you get a nice solid paint. And I paint the whole thing on the first time. Don't ask me why. I think it gives me more options. You will need a little more oil than you're used to, so don't be surprised if you have to dip into the oil a little more. I usually just brush, dip in the oil, brush on my towel rather than really patting out the oil because you need a little more oil in order to spread on bisque. Okay, so now I've painted the blue on there. And I think I want it a little deeper at the top because, of course, I know I'm going to make that like a midnight sky. So, okay. Try to make it as smooth as you can, at least initially, where you're going to be leaving it, like up in here. You can always put a second coat on, too. You don't have to, if you're not happy with the color, you can add a second coat. The one I showed you was one coat. That's another thing. for a beginner, it's nice to have something that you can take home that's all done. Okay, so I clean out my brush really well with my mineral spirits, and I pat it to the point where it hardly has any moisture in it. And I'm going to put in my little snow areas, and I'm just wiping out. Go back in, make sure I get it all off my brush. Can you see what I'm doing here? And I'm just wiping out. But you see how it leaves a little bit of blue as I'm wiping out. And, you know, snow has a cast to it, a color cast to it. It's not always blue, but in this case, it will be. And it also gives me a little edge on my, you see that little blue edge around the bottom there. So I kind of like that. And I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to leave a little section maybe over in here for a little pond. And I can leave that, the blue, and just sort of spread the blue out a little like that, just to make it blue. I'm losing brush hairs on here like crazy. Hang on, let me get that off. Okay. Okay, so that's my horizon for the most part. I might want to come up a little higher here. It's really fun. It's really easy. Beginners should have no problem with this. Okay, and then I'm going to take, I have a number of brushes. You probably want to use a fairly small brush. I'm going to pull up a couple here. I have a number 1, which is a nice brush to use. It's thin and easy to put the paint on, and you can easily draw different things that you want to put on here. So I'm going to put, I think, I'm going to take and put turpentine on it, and I'm actually going to make some birch trees. So I'm going to come down there, put a little more on it. Can you see what I'm doing? And I'm just going to come down there, and I'm going to put a little branch up here. You see what I mean as far as a beginner? There's not much you can do wrong with this. If you don't like it, you can certainly and you can even turn it upside down. Sometimes it's easier to do your branches upside down. Just bring them off the tree. You see what I'm doing here? I'm bringing this little branch off. And in this case, these are going to be birches. So it's going to be real easy. Now maybe, I think, I need to pull this one up a little more. And this one up a little more. And I want this tree to go way up to the top here. So I'm going to pull it all the way up to the top. Okay. Now since they're birch trees, you're going to go through and make sure that they're white. So you're going to wipe out all the white that you need in that birch tree there. So I have those little birch trees over there. And not very difficult, fairly simple. Okay, then I'm going to, let's put a little house in over on this side. So I need a little oil on my, still using my number 1 or number 2. It's a tiny little thing. And I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to put in my little house. I'm just going right over the top of the blue. It's kind of a barn that I want to put in here. So I'm just going to, you see how I'm painting, just painting in the red. And I'm painting it right over the top of my snow and right over the background. And put a little more there. Okay. So that's my little barn. Now, it needs a little barn door. I'm going to put a little barn door on. I'm going to use rich brown. I normally would use probably a black, but I don't have it on my palette right now. And I do have the rich brown. Oh, that's going to be a little thick. So let's put the rich brown on here. How simple is that? Okay. I'm also going to give a little outline to the little lake that I have here in front. I'm just jiggering back and forth. You can barely see what I did there, but it helps me get myself grounded as far as where I want that little bit of lake or a little bit of pond. And then I'm just, I'll do this so you can see. I know my hand's kind of in the way, but I'm just pulling some of that color off. So it's just barely there. Okay. And I'm going to take my number one brush, put in a little bit of the rich brown, and I'm going to backhandedly make some, and I don't know how I can turn so you can see, but I have to do this backhanded to make it really work. I think I need more of a liner. Let me get my liner for this. I'm going to do it backhanded because for me that works better. I want to see it when I do it. But these are the little reeds along the water down here. Just little sticks down the front near the water. For the birch trees, I'm going to put a little bit of the birch on them. And I'm going to do it on this, you know how they have those lines? I'm just going to put little lines on them. And remember, this is all wipeout. This is not difficult to do. And then down at the base, I'm going to use my liner. I'm still using my liner to just sort of outline where the base goes and maybe one side of the tree so that I have a little bit of shadow there. A little bit of shadow there. I'm going to finish these guys off up here and just so they're my little birch trees. I haven't forgotten about the house. I'm taking my mineral spirits and I'm just wiping it out. And this is the cool part. You want to make sure that you get a nice tip on the end of your brush. And you're just going to go over the top here and wipe out. And wipe down. And you really have to keep using the mineral spirits to kind of really get this started. But here we go. And I'm going to do this side. And I'm going to do this side. And then I'm going to put a little roof on it. And in order to finish the roof, I'm just going to keep pulling the color off. And I'm using mineral spirits. I have a little bit of pink mixed in with my white here, so I'm just going to clean it up. And there you have the snow on the little house. Pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to probably put another tree here in the front. So I'm going to take my and turn it upside down. It's easier to do a tree upside down. This is going to be a brown tree. And I'm going to pull from the base all the way up. I'm going to do it again. Okay? And I'm just, if you do it upside down and always start with the trunk and pull it up, pull it off the trunk, you'll always get a decent tree. And I'm fortunate I can look out the window here and see what trees do. So there's my tree. Oops. I'm going to use my mineral spirits again. I've wiped them off. And I'm just going to put the snow on the branches. Oops, you got to go really, you know what? I'm going to have to use my liner. These are really fine little branches. So I'm going to go like this. You see that instant snow on the branches? How simple is that? Oops. I'm going to put a little snow on one side of this tree. And I'm going to put some snow. Can you see the snow I've done there? This is a beginner's way of doing a simple wipeout on bisque to finish your ornaments and not have to worry too much about your techniques. So I've done my little tree there, and I'm just going to finish the base. I need it to be a little bit different there. Okay. There we go. I want to, spread it out a little. Oh, okay. Now, the last thing I'm going to do with this, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, is I'm going to put a little bit of a pathway up here. That's fairly simple to do. You can take a large brush. You can take a, I've got this kind of a brush, so it's a number 10. I like big brushes, and I'm just going to use my silver gray, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a pathway in there. I think I maybe have to use my number 1 because it's not going on quite the way I'd like it to. I want it to be a little more visible. Can you see that there? We'll have a little path right down to the lake. Okay, so that's fairly simple. Now, you can either use the turpentine and you can see I accidentally ended up with a dot up here, and you could do that. You could do the turpentine all over with your pointer and get a snow effect like this. This is the easiest way for somebody who's a beginner, because you're not going to have a lot of the fancy stuff available. But if you have, I like base for raised gold, or even if you have a real pretty enamel, you could put enamel on. Make sure you put a little in front of these structures so that you know that it's snowing out. And there you have your little snow. You can also use white paint. I'll show you what white paint looks like. It kind of looks very similar. There's a white paint section. Or you can use just the wipeout, or you can use, you know, your raised base for gold, or you can use the enamel. So it's a simple project. It doesn't take very long. It's something any beginner could do. And then when you're all done, you remember at one of our previous sessions, we used the gilding wax, and you can get it online. The gilding wax is something that you can use. It comes in gold, silver, and it comes in copper. And you can use it like I did on here after you fire. So you fire this. You paint the other side, you fire this. Then, if you want to embellish it and make it simple for yourself, and this will last, I use my finger and I just put it on lightly, because this has a raised textured area around it, and it's just an easier way to get an embellishment on here that you like and that looks, you know, nice. So I hope you learned something simple, something easy. It's something really simple to do. You can create your own snow up there, and it's all just basically wipeout. It has nothing to do with fancy applying all kinds of enamels and things like that. Alrighty. So until next time, I keep painting, and I will see you shortly. Hi, I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope that you will watch future programs by liking and subscribing to my page. If you do subscribe, I would really appreciate it so that other people who have a similar interest will be able to see more of this kind of programming. I have studies available at my website along with products. If you're interested in finding out more about those, please look at the description box below. Thank you.